I kind of heard about this video that FlyQuest dropped about co-streamers specifically. I definitely saw it in my recommended, and then I didn't end up watching it. Now I'm hearing that during the FlyQuest series, it turned out everyone's hate watching FlyQuest pretty much because of this video. So I got kind of curious to see what's going on. For those of you that don't know, I do follow the LCS very closely, and I have for probably the last maybe 7 years ish. So I was very curious to know why everyone was suddenly hate watching FlyQuest, because I thought people liked the players and such on FlyQuest. So we're going to take a look at this. I'd heard that a big part of it was that the video was considered a hit job or something on Cadril and Dom. Maybe he even talks about it in this short, actually, that I pulled up. Let's just look at it real quick.
50 units on Shopify because Dom said they were going to win. I'm just hate watching FlyQuest because they dropped a hate video on me and Cadril for no reason.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the whole thing is that I guess they dropped a hate video on Dom and Cadril. So we're going to watch this supposed hate video on Dom and Cadril and see.
It was easy to wonder if 2021 was going to be the peak of League of Legends World's viewership. That year, League World set a new record with over 4 million peak viewers.
21 was EDG versus someone, I guess.
And over 174 million hours watched. Viewership dropped substantially in 2022, although that could be blamed on the event being held in Mexico and losing a lot of Asian fan watch time due to how early games were for the many League fans in that region. But after viewership...
I mean, that might have been part of it, right? But I think, League has declined in some ways, particularly esports viewership. What I was hearing at the time, all the way back then for player-based statistics, was that pretty much everywhere except North America was growing in terms of player base. I don't know if that's actually true. I just vaguely remember hearing that at the time.
Remained stagnant for Worlds 2023, which was held in Seoul. It was time to ask the question, was that a peak League would ever reach again? The answer, as 2024 showed us, was a resounding no. Worlds hit a new viewership peak in 2024, and it just barely missed that peak again in 2025 by a measly 2%. The key to that rebound were co-streamers like Cadril, who altogether...
So, he said new peaks, right? I don't know. I just assume, yeah, so he even shared it on stream. This is T1 World Championship. So, I don't know how much peak viewership actually matters, right? Especially when you're talking about something like T1, who a big part of, League of Legends popularity is T1 popularity. I mean, people know Faker, who don't even play the game, right? So, I'd be curious to know, if people were peaking everywhere, or where was declining and what was peaking, on a regional basis.
Together accounted for nearly half of the watch hours for Worlds 2024. And this isn't just how it worked for Worlds. In 2024, co-streamers accounted for huge chunks of the viewership share of games in Riot's 5 main regional circuits. That's LCK, LEC, CBLOL, LPL, and LCSNA, ranging from 32.3% of LCK viewership to 70.9% of CBLOL viewership. So the overall number of people watching League streams is going up, pretty substantially compared to 3 years ago. It's pretty easy to then make a conclusion from this data that content creators are saving League of Legends. But if you look beyond the surface, you'll see that the answer might just be the opposite.
Tarek, nice.
Riot began integrating...
That guy does eat up a lot of the Valorant viewership from what I saw.
Co-streaming into its esports broadcast.
Apparently not even as much as Shroud and... what was her name? Kaide? Oh yeah, it says it right there.
With Valorant in 2021 and expanded it to League in 2023. This was a time where tons of cash was flowing into esports from various sources like venture capital and cryptocurrency companies. In an attempt to keep showing revenue growth and keep venture capital interested, many teams started paying and overpaying for content creators to try to keep that line going up. A ton of investments from venture capital and other significant outside sources of esports funding were predicated on not just big numbers at events like League Worlds, but constantly increasing numbers. Riot was willing to give up some control over the content of the broadcast to the co-streamers in order to reach their audiences.
My biggest thing that I thought was weird about co-streaming was that it's not directly monetized, at all. As far as I know, co-streamers don't even have really very strict rules about what they can and can't do while on their co-streams. I see people just not playing ads, or the ads will be muted, or they're doing React content in between games, so then once again you don't see any of the advertisements. And so at some point, I imagine that investors are going to realize that the advertisements that they're paying for from esports aren't converting to anything. So at what point do you realize that, like, you need to be monetizing them more directly, either like taking a share of the revenue? I don't even know if Riot can do that, or saying, hey, you have to play X ads and making more direct ad deals with them, kind of like how the individual esports teams do. They'd be like, oh, well, you have to whatever show this banner or merch or G Fuel product like on screen or something like this. So I thought it was weird that they could just like co-stream whatever and do whatever they wanted.
Portions of which either had little desire to watch the mainstream or wouldn't have even known about it at all. That was a fine approach in the short term, but as we've seen, venture capital money can dry up fast, and then the teams were left holding onto an empty bag. This is a big reason why teams like 100 Thieves and FaZe have struggled in recent years. It's also a big reason why the main product of League of Legends esports, the official broadcasts of the games, has declined in quality in recent years. If you're a viewer, you might not necessarily...
It depends. It's definitely had its down periods. I think the quality of the broadcasts are actually pretty good for LCS for like the last 2 or 3 years. Or at the very least, it's gone up. There was like this weird period of the broadcast, especially when it first started during COVID. I say from 2020 to pretty much to 24, it was just straight up bad. There was like a lot of just really sucky things to have to watch in the broadcast. Not only pauses, but like the content was just weird. And no players with personality were really shining or like coming out at the time. We were just like shifting around a lot of old players, really, that were then just like losing at the game. At least that's how I felt in the West. Different in the
care
East.
About the economic health of orgs, and really you shouldn't. That's not your problem. There is a more important question to be asked though, one that's relevant for the C-suite and fans alike. Co-streamers and content creators are bumping up the numbers, but are they actually adding value? Are they creating more fans of League of Legends or Valorant or whatever game they're streaming, or are they just creating more fans of their own streams?
Well, I think it's both. I do think there's, to a degree, that co-streamers do pull from the broadcast. I think that's true. I mean, I think it's obviously true. I mean, I think Valorant and League both have co-streamers as like the primary audience. Like they're just eating up a huge portion of the main broadcast. But that being said, like I said, if Riot had chosen to monetize co-streaming more effectively, then I think it'd be fine. Or at least it wouldn't be such a huge issue. It might not even be an issue. And I do think co-streamers do add a lot to the experience, right? I think a big one, my favorite example, is I don't watch LPL if I Will Dominate's not putting videos out on it, because I can't get invested if I'm not following it consistently, but I also can't wake up at 2 a.m. every day to follow it. So I'm not coming to the LPL broadcast for finals or playoffs or anything, or coming in exciting to them for tournaments if Dom's not co-streaming it. So yeah, I'm not Lila because he's not there, right?
The crux of the problem is this. Riot's broadcasts are necessarily much more buttoned up and professional than somebody's personal stream. For a long time, these more professional broadcasts were the only options fans had to watch events.
Well, this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? So they keep it very, very professional on broadcast. So there should at least be guidelines that you have to follow for co-streaming. Like having a certain level of casualness should be fine if you're on like a more individual creator side. But it seems like they just have tons of freedom, especially to just dunk on the broadcast. I don't think you should ban criticizing the broadcast from co-streaming, but there should be a limit, or some sort of warning system, like, man, you guys flame the casters all the time or something while you're talking, and it makes people perceive the broadcast as lower quality, and that's hurting our viewership. So you should have to be in some sort of guideline that makes it so you can't do this as much and push certain narratives that are anti-broadcast. I think that's probably the number one biggest thing with co-streamers, because I don't think they should have to pretend the broadcast is good or anything like that, but even when the broadcast is actually bad, it makes it worse if you have every co-streamer being like, yeah, this sucks.
It's like Worlds. This meant that Riot and its official broadcasters were almost 100% responsible for creating and disseminating the storylines of professional League of Legends. And for a long time, they did a great job. Part of the reason why there was so much hype for Worlds is that Riot's broadcast team was able to construct compelling storylines that could give people reasons to watch even if they hadn't spent the whole year following the circuits. But now, that responsibility has been spread out to the co-streamers as well. And while their personalities are able to draw in some fans who are turned off by the more corporate style of broadcasting on the mainstream, that doesn't necessarily come without a cost.
Gain by doing so? Well, like I said, I don't really think that they do, especially since those numbers aren't actually real. So I imagine, especially for teams, it's been harder to get good sponsors.
Hi, my name is Nick. Nice to meet you. And
LS, my goat.
hot take is that I think content creation is responsible for the demise of League of Legends in North America.
Okay, the responsible for the demise is crazy. Not saving esports, or maybe even the take that co-streamers or content creators are harming esports, I don't even think is that ridiculous of an opinion to have. But to say that it's solely responsible is a very ridiculous thing to say, especially since there's actually such a small percentage of player base. I think, well, I can't remember what the number, so I won't say the number, but there's a really small percentage of the people who actually play League of Legends that actually interact with esports and a ton of extra content outside. So there's a lot of things that I think are actually problems with either Riot's implemented changes, or I think my biggest problem with League of Legends is actually probably the community right now doesn't take enough responsibility for themselves. I mean, we see it every game. I mean, just on the stream, there's someone every single game who either has to be toxic or wants to quit and completely ruin the game. So I think this take is just insane. They are not responsible for the demise. At worst, they're a part of it, but I don't even think that's true.
The first part, not in the content creators' control, but the monetary difference in value between content creation versus being professional, as you just mentioned. And the second thing is, I think the narrative has transitioned from being solely in control of the Riot production team, which has always done a fantastic job of creating narratives, and now it's in the hands of content creators. Now more than ever, especially when it comes to LTA content, a lot of the narrative around it is very negative and toxic. I guess my point is,
I think that's kind of true. I mean, definitely around LTA stuff, but you have to realize that a portion of that is because of the change to LTA from LCS and from the CB law. Like, that's like the biggest part of it, is people were really against that. And I don't even think that had anything to do with pro player, or like not pro player narratives, with like the co-streamer narratives or anything like that. I mean, maybe they didn't help, right? But this is the thing that a lot of people really didn't like. So I don't like that example specifically.
when you look at the co-streamers in general and you see like what Caedrel's doing, and Caedrel's doing a great job in terms of, I watched a game where it was two bottom teams in the LEC playing against each other and just highlighting the good positive plays the teams are making, regardless of the overall standings and rankings of the teams, versus like what Dom does, where I saw he posted a video saying the title of the video was 15 years of competitive League of Legends equals this, and he just spent 80% of the time flaming Shopify Rebellion and digging pause for poor play. It's hard to build a brand, especially as a player, and
they
to
probably
me, it's
deserved it.
really negating any effort by these players, regardless of how good they are, to try to make a brand when there's so much negativity revolving around them.
This was part of a 1 versus
I actually think more negativity comes from the people watching the co-streams or the community itself than it actually does from the content creators. I followed Dom for a really long time. He'll go on and he'll say stuff like, yeah, you know, top teams on the West or North America right now could beat, you know, maybe even middle tier LCK teams or something like that. And then everyone in a chat will be like, no. Like, this is completely delusional. You know, maybe they could beat, you know, Bro or whatever, but they're never ever beating like a 6th place team in LCK. I don't even know who's 6th place in LCK right now. But I actually think Dom and even LS tend to be more positive about North American League than their communities are.
20 event we held with LS, a strategic consultant and league content creator with FlyQuest, discussing the problems with North American League of Legends. Was Nick's hot take really that hot though? The problem isn't just the tone of...
It was extremely hot. Like, being responsible for the demise was crazy. And then his reasoning, too, was just weird. I don't know where we got off thinking that Riot's always done a great job of spinning narratives. Because, obviously, if they've always done a great job creating player narratives, you know, that were interesting to fans, then the co-streamers wouldn't be eating as much as their broadcast. You know, obviously the co-streamers are at least being more entertaining in terms of creating narratives than Riot Games is.
Of the broadcast, or the fact that there's a competing narrative. It's good that there are competing broadcasts with the mainstream. In theory, that should be an incentive for Riot to produce high-quality broadcasts to ensure that people want to tune in. Instead, what has happened is the fact that Riot can rely on big viewership.
Well, they're not competing with the broadcast, like, quality. I mean, they're showing the Riot Games broadcast, right? So any improvements or to, like, professionalism or quality on the Riot Games broadcast is just also going to be shown on the co-streamer stream.
Numbers from co-streams, that's incentivized them to become stagnant with regards to the quality of the main broadcast. The problem also isn't the fact that tons of money, millions of dollars in some cases, were poured into these creator deals. Players are not the only people who make an esports community tick. You have to be able to reach people, and investing in creators who can take the game's storylines and make something that brings them into the fold is hugely important to building a bigger future for the game.
I don't think you should be investing in creators.
But that wasn't necessarily what was happening with creator deals in esports, especially in the early 2020s.
My name is Kelsey Rumage. I am the Senior Marketing Manager here at FlyQuest, and before this I was a...
Well, you're doing a terrible job, just let me say that, because if you were doing a good job, then I wouldn't be hearing that everyone's now hate watching your team, who, by the way, what's actually so weird is everyone's hate watching FlyQuest now, even though I'm sure the players and the coaches had nothing to do with this video. So your players and coach are now catching hate for something they had nothing to do with because of this video. So I don't know how you let your org release this video, actually, if you're the marketing manager. That's crazy, honestly.
a talent agent in the esports scene for about 5 years. When esports was kind of in its peak, there was a time where it was very popular to have content creators signed to the esports org to not only bring in followers, but increase engagement, interaction with new fans, especially from that content creators community, trying to integrate them over to the org's fans. And a lot of orgs really didn't utilize content creators to what they had their potential to be. It was more, you know, we're signing them for their name, we're signing them because they have 1 million followers, not knowing where those followers came from, what those followers really gravitate towards. And so just because you sign the biggest content creator in the world doesn't mean that you're gonna get the return that you intend for, especially for the amount of money.
Well, especially when you think about something like this, right? A lot of esports fans, this is pretty common knowledge, they're not exactly jumping the gun to spend money on merch of pretty much any kind. But especially when you're talking about internet content, all of this stuff is free. No one paid in to get here. These aren't people who are using, some sort of like expendable income to come interact with this point of entertainment in the first place. They're not willing to spend. A lot of them are interacting with League of Legends esports or League of Legends content because it's free. They're players of a free game, watching a free broadcast. And I think especially when you have certain types of marketing, like the secret lab chairs seems really silly to me. I wonder what the returns they get on that are because, who's going out and buying a $200 gaming chair? Especially when it's like, come on guys, everybody knows at this point that you just get like a $60 office chair or something like that. It's just going to be more comfortable than the gaming chair. Gaming chairs freaking suck.
That orgs were paying.
That was a bit of a tangent. No one cares if I think gaming chairs suck, but I'm just saying it's like you're not going to get that many returns in the first place off advertisements when you're advertising largely expensive products to people who are here to not spend any money.
For these creators, it just turned into something where, you'd get an offer for $500,000 for a 3-year deal, for example. And the guidelines of what the deal is going to be was very loose. It was like, stream for us, throw branding on your stream, and then obviously your fans are gonna come over and be Team XYZ's fans because you have that branding up. When in reality, most of those fans didn't translate over, and then when the content creator left the org, so did all the fans. So what, you just wasted $500,000 on something that you could have utilized better?
That certainly does not have to be the case with content.
You know what's really interesting is I actually think that how this works in esports at the moment is you're never going to convince someone to like an unlikable esports team. I think it's really about the players and the coaches and their personalities and the things that they've accomplished and all of these different types of things that actually make your esports team popular. So I don't think you're going to buy a content creator's fan base. Like, I don't think if you... Well, I mean, they're content creators like LS. I don't think if LS starts hyping up FlyQuest randomly, then it's going to translate to LS fans becoming FlyQuest fans. I mean, LS already has sort of an in on FlyQuest because Griffin's there and obviously he spent a lot of time on FlyQuest. So maybe that's not the best example, but You can't pay Dom to hype up Dignitas and then all of a sudden have it be believable that that team's likable. It's like nobody cares about that team. They're not winning, and they have, some neat players, right? But not at the end of the day, they don't actually have any branding or weight to carry on their own. So if Dom hyped up Dignitas and then left, then his fans are obviously going to leave too. But I do think actions of the org and the content creators related to the org obviously can have an impact on the negativity that the players receive. I feel really bad for the players of FlyQuest, and this is actually on FlyQuest and the community. I don't understand why we're hate watching FlyQuest when none of those players deserve for anyone to want them to lose. Like, it's weird.
Creator esports deals. Look no further than Sentinels and Tarek, one of the most popular co-streamers in the Valorant space. Tarek brings the perspective of a former CS pro and is genuinely invested in both his team and the game. It's the kind of arrangement that benefits everybody in the space. Fans of Tarek are very likely to become fans of Valorant as a result, and vice versa. It's a symbiotic relationship.
Who does Tarek have fans outside of Valorant? I mean, I guess he's from the Cloud9 team that won a major.
In that 1 vs 20, Nick was debating with LS, who both co-streams our League of Legends games and works as a strategic consultant for our League team. LS made some important points in favor of the co-streaming system.
My view is, we knew that even in 2020 that the average viewer of LCS at the time, LTA now, was over the age of 21. And we know this because one, Riot had the data, and then two, Bud Light was a sponsor. Now everyone is going to be 27, 28. People just don't want to tune in to watch kids much younger than them play video games anymore. People don't want to tune into the same repetitive matches being played, which was why I pushed against or pushed for Fearless, Iron Man, etc. I think there's a lot more that's going on that doesn't have to do with co-streaming. I think if you remove all the co-streamers right now in the world, it does not mean that everything returns to the broadcast. I think a fraction would return.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I don't think co-streaming, especially in the way that they did it, was optimal to release, but I do think it's one of those things where now that you've implemented co-streaming, a lot of people would just stop watching the game if you took it away, because this is just how they interact with League of Legends now. I mean, Kadrill's numbers are just completely insane. It's like they interact with esports through this content creator almost entirely. And so, yeah, I don't think LS is wrong on that one. I don't know if it's true that people don't want to come in to watch people play video games anymore. I don't know if that on a fundamental level is true, but I do think it's true that for reasons outside of co-streaming, that there is a certain decline in esports.
When it comes to co-streaming, the genie is out of the bottle, and he's not going back in there.
Yeah.
You can confirm LS's claim that audience numbers would drop by going to pretty much any Reddit thread talking about co-streams. Fans will say that they have no interest in watching games unless they're cast by somebody like Kadrill. But the reality is that the current economics just aren't working for anybody other than a few huge creators. They aren't working for Riot, they aren't working for teams, and they aren't working for the players, especially those outside of the Tier 1 system. Hell, they aren't even really working for most creators who aren't named Kadrill. Here's Team Liquid's coach Spawn at another 1v20 debate Liquid held.
But my gut feeling is that the 100,000 people that watch Kadrill used to watch the main broadcast and now don't watch the main broadcast, which is terrible for sponsorship. All Kadrill does is screech over every single ad roll being played. Like, I don't even know how Riot is monetizing this shit anymore. And he used to be on the broadcast and left the broadcast because co-streaming was more popular.
Yeah, because they wouldn't pay him, right? So this is, Spawn's just completely cooking here, right? I mean, the base coach, he's completely right. I mean, this is part of what I said before, right? Is, yeah, how are you even monetizing co-streams? And I think he's also totally right that I don't think people actually had much of an audience before they started co-streaming that they brought in. At least not relative to the size of the audience that they grew by co-streaming. Like, I don't think this is true for Kadrill. I mean, he had some time on the broadcast, he had some time on the pro player. He wasn't that popular in either. I mean, he was a very popular caster, but that doesn't turn into eating most of the broadcast. I mean, but on stream, he's different, and he just eats up a lot of the viewership. I don't think those fans were... I don't think there's 100,000 Kadrill fans that, came in and started watching LEC. I think it was almost entirely LEC fans. Maybe there's like a few thousand people that were already Kadrill fans. I mean, I knew Kadrill from, Dom's co-stream. Like, I didn't even know him until then. So it's like, I think Spawn's totally right here. I think they're not converting at all, and that they are eating up the wrong broadcast. But I think you can do co-streams and find some way to monetize that. Like I said, I don't know what rights Riot has to sort of like take revenue from streamers, but it's like, I wonder if they could have set up like a revenue cut system or something. It's like, hey, yeah, you can co-stream the game, but you know, you have to show ads and you have to give us whatever this percentage of your stream revenue or something like that. Or maybe there's other things you could do to make it work. I'm not exactly sure. Special guests on the broadcast seem like the best solution to me. Like if you just have Dom doing his analyst thing on broadcast instead. I mean, like, I really like Emily Rand, but I mean, there are other people we could replace on the broadcast to just like have Dom and Kadril doing, you know, analysis instead of, you know, people that are only known for being on the LCS broadcast anyways.
Literally proving my point that we are missing the S-tier talent off the Riot game broadcast because it's better to be the co-streamer at the moment. I think that we're in a situation now where Riot have to make it a net positive because otherwise the ecosystem is absolutely cooked. But I think that even if you ask the people at Riot if they could put Pandora back in the box, majority of people are putting that box closed instantly.
That's not really how Pandora's box works. Like, she was never in the box, she opened it, you know what, never mind. Spawn is right that we need to make a world where co-streaming and content creators can truly thrive within and alongside esports, but how do we build it?
The creator system is dying. There are a couple creators who are long-lasting and are doing the work, but those creators are making pieces of content that are new and people haven't seen before.
Who? And I mean, like, who's really dying? I mean, like, Dom and LS have pretty much died off by choice. I mean, they're not even died off, right? I mean, Dom has plenty of fans. It's just that, you know, he's not co-streaming right now, really. And LS isn't co-streaming right now. I mean, I don't know who else has died and who's creating new pieces of content that people haven't seen before in League of Legends. I mean, like, I guess Jinxie came in pretty recently for a bit, and that was cool. I think there's another one. But they did like a brief stint in League of Legends, and maybe that helped people get into the game. But otherwise, it's like we're not seeing anything crazy.
Don't seem the same React creators persisting today. A lot of them have died out, have moved on to different projects. But you know, we see people
moved on to different projects and died out is two incredibly different things, insanely different.
People like Grim who have been in the space for a very long time, ever since, you know, basically Valorant started. And he's still persisting because he's adapting, he's creating new content, he's helping out with guides, which he has done for a while, but
how are guides new content?
Are always still relevant because there are still players trying to get better in Valorant. You have to be a creator that actually offers something to the space. And I think a lot of people have missed that. And especially in a world where you can just buy followers. Followers don't mean anything anymore. It's about your personality and what you actually offer to your audience, to the bigger content creation space and esports space.
Okay, that was freaking weird, first of all. And, oh, he's a FlyQuest creator. Oh, this is starting to make sense. Okay, so first of all, I'm only 5 minutes left, so maybe they'll get into it. But I haven't seen them, you know, they've mostly been talking about co-streaming in general and content creation in general, not specifically Kadril and Dom. Although they've pretty much only used Kadril, Dom, and Tarek clips so far. So maybe that's why this video is getting called a hit job. But I think, like, you know, if you're FlyQuest and you're trying to make this video to, I think they're about to start plugging their own creators. I mean, they're plugging Grim right here, right? Saying that guides are new content. It's like, this isn't new and original content. What? Everybody does guides. But I do think that it's a little weird that they're calling this a hit, at least as of right now. Maybe my opinion will change in the next 4 minutes, right? But I mean, like, you can't really imply some of the other content creators aren't good for the space. If you think about the other co-streamers, right? I mean, LS is one of yours, right? So you're not going to imply that LS is ruining the space. You're not going to imply that Ibai or Kometo are ruining the space because those fan bases will eat you alive. You're not going to apply that any of the like Eastern or Asian co-streamers like Doinby or whatever are ruining the space because, again, they'll eat you alive and people call you an idiot because a lot of them are world champs, right? So I think just like in terms of politically correct targets for people who you could say are a negative to the space, Dom especially, I don't really think you could say it about Kadril, obviously, because a lot of people love Kadril, so I think that's probably their biggest mistake. But I mean, Dom already has haters, right? He has a lot of people that love him, and I think he has done good for the space. But I mean, the guy has haters, so it's more like socially acceptable, I guess, to trash on Dom. So he's just like the co-streamer that's left. I think it's weird for them to not really read the room and notice that, like, you know, a lot of people really, really love Cadril. And I think Cadril goes way out of his way to be much more positive on things overall. And so he doesn't even really make sense for the narratives that they put in the video. So it's a pretty trash video, but I don't think it's meant to target those content creators. I don't think this is like the hit job that I heard that people were saying it was.
Grim is the newest addition to FlyQuest's creator team. He's been uploading Valorant videos to YouTube for over 5 years, becoming known as one of the most creative Sage players in the game. He's not just a strong player, cool, but he's great at making content that can connect with Valorant players and fans of all skill and engagement levels, which makes him exactly the kind of creator who fits what we need at FlyQuest. But in order for this relationship to work, FlyQuest also has to have something to offer Grim.
I would say FlyQuest brings Grim opportunity, but not in the, you know, typical ways of many orgs in the past where, you know, it's not just like, oh, you know, we're giving you a org where you have a platform. Like, we're giving him opportunity to do the content that he wants to do. You know, he was talking to us about IRL content and traveling content, and we want to give him the opportunity to do that with our other FlyQuest creators as well as by himself.
What does that even have to do with content creators not saving esports? Is he even an esports content creator? I don't get it.
You know, if he wants to try something new, we want to give him the ability to do that and not feel scared that it's going to fail. Because we believe in him and he believes in himself, which is the most important part. And he is excited to do things. You know, you don't find a lot of people who are really excited about content creation this day and age that's authentic to actually feeling excited. If he comes with an idea and we say yes, he's going to execute it and he's going to do it with all of his heart, which is something that we really value with him.
It's simply not enough to just have somebody with followers, somebody who gets views. For a content creator to make sense within esports, they have to have some kind of tie to the game itself. Grim isn't just somebody who loves to play Valorant and make videos about it.
You mean like an ex-pro like I Will Dominate? Or you mean like Cadril, who is not only an ex-pro, but he has now made an esports team, and he's also was on the broadcast? Like, what, huh? I'm pretty sure those guys are pretty tied to esports.
He's an obsessive fan of the competitive scene, and somebody who's ready and willing to share his love for it
so
with
a fan
his
of the
viewers.
competitive scene.
That doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be an ex-player or coach like LS. It can be somebody like Basil, an artist who has been part of the community and understands its sensibilities and tastes. It can be somebody like Nemo or Gina Darling, huge creators in spaces that are adjacent enough to esports that there's cross.
Are these all Fly creators? Is that what's happening right now?
Over just waiting to happen.
I think it's safe to say that esports isn't in a place that it used to be a couple of years ago. I mean, like in the golden age of esports, there was a time where it was just people that were hungry to actually be involved in the games that were being produced and the teams that were out there, whether we were winning or not, because, you know, North America isn't shy to not always being on top. And so you really have to love
not shy, like we have a
being
choice.
in esports and being a player in this game, whether it's, you know, on the staff side, on the player side, on the content creator side. And so it's really not about collecting a check anymore. It's about actually being passionate and wanting to do things. And
I think that's true for some people and not true for others. I don't think everyone's here for the love of the game, unfortunately. I think there's plenty of people that just have jobs because of nepotism or because they've just been in the scene for a really long time, and so they're kind of familiar faces and just end up getting work that there probably are people that are more qualified for. I mean, there's also, you know, I mean, I'll just say it. I mean, like, if you had paid, you know, Dash, or if you paid Cadril, or maybe even Dom, or other people, you know, more appropriate salaries, like not even necessarily what they're making as co-streamers, but if you just paid them reasonably well, it's like, I bet you could easily get these guys on the main broadcast. And, you know, I think they're in it for the love of the game.
So when you find those content creators that actually want to do that, it turns into a solution rather than a problem, because then you don't look at it a year later and you said, hey, I wasted all this money on this content creator that didn't actually add anything to this organization. In today's day and age, it's much more about the quality versus the quantity. You know, whether that speaks on followers, it speaks on reach, on different geographic location and where they have ties to. It's about authenticity and about really finding that person who wants to do something special and not something that's super cookie cutter.
Like all the content, literally all of it, every single piece of the content that you described from FlyQuest creators, that's incredibly cookie cutter and the same as everyone else. Like, tons of people do guides, tons of people do IRL content, chess content. Like, I mean, it's just, huh?
So, did content creators really bankrupt esports?
Not even
It's
close.
probably more accurate to say that.
This dog is so
So,
good.
did content creators really bankrupt esports? It's
That's good. I remember used to wear that TL hoodie. I think one of my favorite co-stream videos was the 5-player weak side TL video. That one was so good. That was so funny.
probably more accurate to say that deals with content creators that were focused on big numbers in the short term rather than building community in the long term were the problem. But the shifts in the ecosystem can't be undone, and we're not going back to the pre-2021 world anytime soon.
True.
That means it's everybody's responsibility to find ways to integrate content creation into esports in ways that go beyond chasing that bigger number. Instead, we need to actually build things that attract and create fans of games and teams, not just the streamers using them for content.
I mean, like, that's so silly. I think that was a pretty stupid video overall. Like, why would I don't know. It was a really weird and stupid video. I will say the two things that I think is weird about the perception of the video is that like I said before, I don't think that it was a Cadril Dom like hit video or something like this where they're trying to diss Cadril and Dom. First of all, it doesn't make any sense for them to do that. Obviously, it doesn't make any sense to them to do that. Brewed a bunch of hate for them. I just think it's as a result of, like, Cadril and Dom were, like, the co-streamers left that they could imply, were doing bad for the space. I don't think it actually had anything to do with those two specifically. But, and the other thing is that's weird is the people hate watching FlyQuest now because of this video. Like, the players and the coaches didn't do anything for you guys to, prey on their downfall. So that's the other really weird thing. I do think this video was pretty stupid. I mean, I don't think they made any good points, pretty much. I mean, the best points that they made in the video for, like, why co-streaming wasn't good were actually just made by Spawn instead, who, is coming from a different video from Team Liquid. So if you want to see a good opinion on that, I guess go watch Team Liquid instead. A super weird video from FlyQuest. Just drew hate in for no reason. I mean, some of the hate is for no reason, to be fair. It's like, I don't think this is an actual targeted Cadril Dom video. I think that's a really silly take, to be honest. But anyways, that's all. Later, guys.